For the 10-minute rule motion on supply of drugs to children under 16 aggravated offence, and I call Kevin Hollenrake to move it.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to make the offence of supplying or offering to supply a controlled drug aggravated when the person to whom the drug is supplied or offered is under 16 and for connected purposes. John F. Kennedy once said, "Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future." Of course, as a society, we recognise our special duty to protect children and to ensure those who bring them harm feel the full force of the law. The Supply of Drugs to Children under 16 Aggravated Offence Bill, or Leah's Law, intends to change the law to make clear that any person under the age of 16 cannot consent to taking illegal substances, and by asking our judges to impose tougher sentences on those who supply drugs to our children. This will have a dual effect of keeping young people safe, but also acting as a deterrent to those who callously target children. In order to outline why this change is long overdue, let me explain the tragic background to this bill. In May 2019, 15-year-old Leah Hayes from Northallerton was sold MDMA by two friends. She took the substance in a car park and died shortly after, tearing her family and community's life apart. The unimaginable was exacerbated by the fact that the young adults who sold Leah the drugs received custodial sentences of 21 and 12 months, respectively. The two ended up serving a paltry 6 months each. As a 15-year-old, Leah was, of course, in the eyes of the law, just a child at the time her life was cut cruelly short. Quite rightly, society and the law offers greater protections and special considerations when it comes to children. As we all know, it is illegal to sell alcohol or cigarettes or to have sex with somebody under the age of 16 by stating that somebody under that age cannot consent to do so. Even beauty salons who allow under 18s to use sunbeds would be committing a specific offence against children. So you would think we would offer greater protections for our children against those who seek to exploit their innocence when it comes to the supply of drugs, but we do not. Of course, it is currently an offence under the Section 4 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971 to supply a controlled drug to any person. But by having this blanket approach to sentencing, we are not protecting those who need it most. There is a clear disregard and callousness when anyone decides to knowingly put a child's life in danger. Yet in terms of dealing drugs, no greater penalties apply for doing so. While there are statutory aggravating factors where the offender uses a child to deliver drugs or supply drugs on or in the vicinity of school premises during or close to school hours, these do not apply when selling drugs to children like Leah. Hence, the huge gap in the law. While the tragedy of drug-related death is not limited to children, adults are seen by law as having legitimate agency and capability to make their own choices. Yet in other areas, the law recognises that they do not have this capability. Given the added peer pressure which comes with this age of social media, children are particularly impressionable and vulnerable targets. It cannot be right that a child's agency is classed as the same as an adult when it comes to something so damaging as drugs. We know that county lines drug gangs target young people, as these young people in turn go on to supply drugs to their peers, so the profits pile up for the dealers and the cycle continues. While I note it has been established in case law that targeting vulnerable individuals to supply drugs to them or targeting or supplying children could be examples of aggravating features, it is not mandated by a specific piece of legislation, which is what this law secures. This would not be an unconventional approach to drug sentencing. Certain states in Australia recognise this differentiation. In Tasmania, New South Wales and South Australia, there are specific offences for the supply of drugs to under-16s. Since Leah's death, her mother, Kerry Roberts, has championed tirelessly the case for Leah's Law, which is why I'm stood before you now. I know Kerry is watching today, and I want to thank her for raising awareness about this issue, and I know she doesn't want her daughter's death to be in vain, and for that, the whole House will have nothing but admiration for her. While Kerry is not my constituent, drug-related crime among young people affects each and every one of us here in Parliament, and I fully intend to help her campaign succeed. To ensure just one person thinks twice about selling drugs to an under 16-year-old, to save one child's life, or even just one better start in life, would make this bill and all Kerry's crucial work worthwhile. I do appreciate the government is carrying out a great deal of work in terms of restricting drug supply and working with charities and agencies. But the reality is the global fight against drugs is a massive undertaking and will take many, many years to solve. We must deter these perpetrators from preying on our children. We can start to tackle this issue on behalf of all those families whose lives have been devastated by drug crime. It speaks volumes that the Leah's Law petition garnered 10,276 signatures, but disappointing that the government's response thus far is that they were not going to act on this. I did, however, have a very constructive meeting with the Minister, so I do hope that position will change soon. So it is simple. I'm asking the government to think again to support my bill, to make it a specific offence to supply drugs to under 16-year-olds, ensuring this crime carries a harsher sentence. I will continue to work with Leah's mother and with ministers to make this campaign a reality.
Thank you very much. This would normally be the opportunity for anybody who wishes to speak against the motion to indicate they wish to do so, but I see none, so I will now put the question. And the question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As may I say aye? For the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Andrew Selous, Andy Carter, Tim Lawton, Anthony Higginbottom, Jack Brereton, James Daly, Matt Hancock, Craig Williams, Jim Shannon, Chris Bryant, Liam Byrne, and myself, sir.
Kevin Hollenrake.
Thank you very much. Supply of drugs to children under 16, aggravated offence bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 28th of October, sir.
Friday the 28th of October. Thank you very much.